And welcome to the next episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I'm your host, ShellshockPrime, and tonight's topic is all about Toonami. Toonami's 25th anniversary. 25 years of Toonami. Where has the time gone? It's been so many years that we have this, and now here we are, still going strong. And I have two guests tonight joining with me. First, we have SuperNinBow.
Hello.
And we got HitoRetroGaming. And now, here we are. So, 25 years of Toonami. Yes, there was a hiatus, for a few years, which only lasted 4. But otherwise, everything else is good. So, now, so before we actually get started, so first and foremost, Hito, is everything good with you?
Yeah, all good.
Alright, just want to make sure. And you, SuperNinBow, everything good with you?
I am totally fine.
Alright, perfect. Okay, so, before we get started on talking about Toonami, so let's talk about, you guys first. So, SuperNinBow, let's start with you. What type of content do you do?
I make retro video game stuff. I do a lot of challenge runs. Recent stuff I've done include Ninja Gaiden. I'm doing a deathless run of it, no items. I do a lot of RPGs, or at least I'm easing myself back into those. But yeah, I do a lot of retro challenge stuff. I play a lot of hard old games I could never beat as a kid. And my channel, I actually did a week of Toonami back in September of last year. I played games based on Toonami properties. So we had a night of Yu Yu Hakusho, a night of Gundam Wing. We had a night of Dragon Ball Z. So yeah, I have a very heavy old anime aesthetic to my channel as well.
Yeah. Alright, that's cool. And for Hito, what about you?
For me, I'm a retro variety streamer. I focus a lot on retro games, quite frankly, a lot. But I do like to play with the community also over, and I also like indie games. Some projects that concluded recently were Metal Gear May, the Mega Marathon, where I played Mega Man's 1 through 11 for the Trevor Project, and we just recently closed off a charity stream for NYCG, which is NYC Gamers, where the Y stands for You Belong.
Yes. That's some good stuff right there. Yeah. Because I watch both of you, and you both make excellent content. But now today, we're going to be talking about Toonami. Toonami has been around since 1997, and the original host, believe it or not, was not Tom. No. It was actually Moltar from Space Ghost. He was the original host for at least the first 2 years of Toonami. Before they switched to Tom, I believe it was 1999 was when they switched him out. Mm-hmm. But yes. If anyone remembers differently, please let us know in the chat.
Oh, I'm not going to remember years for shit. Oh,
yeah.
Are we allowed to say swear words on this?
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to remember dates for anything. I grew up with Moltar, that was my first exposure, and I miss him. I think they even had a little eulogy for him when C. Martin Croker passed away.
They did,
Tom had a little thing. It was really cool. It was a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I remember that. Because I remember they did dedicate that, because he was the voice actor not only for Zorak, but he's also for Moltar as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember is that because I remember first watching it, and there was no anime when it started. When it started, I remember they just had a bunch of random old cartoons from the 80s to the early 90s. Mm-hmm. But before we get any further, I'm going to be asking you guys the first question. How did you first find out about Toonami? Ninbow, you first.
Okay. So I basically how are my levels, by the way, with the volume? Since I'm not going through my OBS, I want to make sure that I'm not blowing your ears out.
You're good. 100%
okay.
Good.
Okay, awesome. So I watched Cartoon Network religiously as a kid. So when Toonami I watched it from with Adult Swim, I watched it from its onset, the very first time it showed. And like you said, it wasn't anime based. It was what kind of action-based properties do we have? There were some new shows, if I remember correctly. I think The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest was one of the first ones. I don't know if it was on the initial run, but I remember Thundercats. I remember Voltron. They basically, well, Voltron's an anime. It's an Americanized anime, but still. Reboot was on there. That is not an anime, but it should be. But I watched I watched everything on there, and I remember when Toonami came about, it was such a different and weird and interesting sort of programming block, because I was so used to all these shows being kind of like kid-centric, and Toonami felt like maybe this is a strong word, but a little more dangerous, a little more edgy, a little more like grown-up, you know? And especially when it started kicking in with like Dragon Ball Z. Now, I had seen anime before Dragon Ball, but that was the first time I was like, this is something very different. This is something kids can enjoy, but it's not meant strictly for kids. You know, this feels mysterious and different and adult. And things like Sailor Moon, like I love Sailor Moon. I watched like My Little Pony as a kid, but I didn't watch like things that were like, you know, female coded or whatever. Like I grew up in a time that was very like gendered.
Yes.
Right? And watching Sailor Moon was awesome because it showed me I don't have to watch things that are like strictly gender coded for boys to enjoy them. I like the relationships in the show. I like the characters in the show, and everyone's kicking each other's ass anyways. So I mean, everything goes together really well. So it was interesting, and I stopped watching Toonami. Well, I stopped having cable. It was around like, I think it died around 2009, and it came back 2012 or something. I've not watched any of the revival, unfortunately. But I really was like a central part of when I was a young kid. Yeah, it really was. And then, I mean, we'll talk about all this stuff later, but yeah, I should probably stop there. You asked a simple question, I gave an over-convoluted answer. There you go. No,
it's a good answer. It's a really good one. Now, your turn, Hito. How did you first hear about Toonami?
So, unfortunately, I was also around during the Moltar situation, and I say unfortunately with a lot of like regret, because when I saw Moltar, I wasn't really into Space Ghost Coast to Coast when I was younger. So when I saw him, I was like, this may not be for me. And then a few years later, do you remember Blockbuster?
Yes.
Absolutely not. Just Hollywood Video.
But yes, so Blockbuster happened, and I saw covers to Dragon Ball Z, and I would buy literally the videotapes, and I would also buy the Sailor Moon ones too, because I was kind of interested. And when I started watching the tapes, I went to Cartoon Network a few years later and saw, I can watch this on TV? Hold on a sec. Holy crap. Did you know that they have these shows on television? Excuse me. During this time, I was already into anime. I grew up with it. I knew that Dragon Ball Z existed in Japan. I just didn't know what it was because we had an SNES cart for Dragon Ball Z. If you remember the old time game that they had for the SNES before it became popular.
Yeah.
So I was aware of how like familiar it was, but then I saw the videos. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a show? And then I found out Toonami was a thing, and I'm like, holy crap, we have Toonami. And ever since my third grade mind can remember, I ended up ruining my sleep schedule for the first time in third grade because of Midnight Run.
Oh yeah, that ruined mine too.
I remember Midnight Run, very well. Yeah. But yeah. Toonami is just something that, like, I remember just randomly just watching Cartoon Network, because like I would flip between either Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or if cartoons just happened to be on like syndication through like on weekdays, syndication only on like the Fox networks, UPN networks, or WB, like their affiliate networks. And I remember just flipping through channels, and then what I've seen was just like a commercial sometime around like 97. I remember just seeing a commercial where they were advertising Toonami, and they were going to have these, it was like an action block. They had multiple action blocks in the past, but none ended up being anywhere near as prolific as this. Because I remember like just watching it, because they had this is what I remember they had like these old like Batman and Superman and Justice League cartoons from like the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. I remember they had that. They had Thundercats. They had I'm trying to think of what else did they. Yeah, I remember you mentioned Voltron. They had that too. I think there was another show they had. I don't remember if it aired on Toonami. Ronin Warriors.
Oh yeah, that was on there for sure.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's like the early days of Toonami, and then it's like I remember, but I didn't really watch it as regularly in '97. I started watching it regularly a lot more sometime in 1998 because I remember like. That was when they started rerunning Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon. In fact, with Sailor Moon, because the show got canceled in 1995, because like when they did the English dub, it was from Deke, and then Deke ended up commissioning to get like the rest of like that one season, like the third season, and they ended up just finished redubbing all those episodes and then like just airing all of that on Toonami just to finish that up. But once the next season came in, completely different production company, completely different cast, and then I did not like I honestly was kind of a bit turned off at first because I wasn't the biggest fan of like the second voice actress for Sailor Moon. The third one that came afterwards, much better, but other than that, like I remember that was one of them. But like Dragon Ball Z, because I remember my first exposure to Dragon Ball Z was like on syndication, but Toonami was when I started watching it more. And all these shows, I remember early on, like Toonami was different when Moltar was the one that was the host. But then like they decided to just take Moltar out. I think I might have missed the time when they took him out and replaced him with Tom, because I remember when I started watching Toonami a lot more in '99 afterwards, Tom was there, and he was there ever since. It's just crazy how like Toonami would always change every time, like there would be something completely new, something completely different for like what they're going for and the type of shows. Because I first heard about it like just from random commercials back in '97, and that's really what it was. And then I just watched off and on, but I was watching more regularly like when I was in like late junior high to early high school, and then the rest is history. And now I'm just looking at chat. Because like I remember like Ronin Warriors was definitely on, like you guys said, but. I'm gonna highlight something. I'm gonna highlight a chat something that Icepick said, and he said that he honestly always thought that Space Ghost Coast to Coast came after Cartoon Planet, and which was another show that had Space Ghost characters, and it blew his mind to find out that it was the other way around. Yeah, like for me, it was always like I always known that Space Ghost Coast to Coast was like the first what came first. And then Cartoon Planet, and then Toonami with Moltar, because Moltar was not in Cartoon Planet. It was Space Ghost, Zorak, and Brack. So you had Moltar hosting Toonami because of that. And now, like, just the thought of having Toonami back then, like, and then when they had anime, like, because that's when I really got into anime. And now here we are. Toonami had Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball TT. Yes, no Super yet because Super was like much later, but that's like Super was like around like way past the revival time.
TT's like the bad stepson, and Super is like the actual born given heir.
Oh my god. Yeah. So.
And of course, the best Dragon Ball Z is back in the Garlic Jr. saga.
Okay.
When you didn't even know what the hell it was. It didn't fit the standard of regular Dragon Ball Z. It had the weird dub. It wasn't the big green dub. It was something else. But I recently discovered it was Ocean. I recently discovered the big green dub though. Very much like that.
Oh yeah.
Very stupid. But the voices are so interesting and weird. And I remember the When Dragon Ball Z first came over, I did not know what the hell the chronology was supposed to be, like what the canon was, because it threw you at the Saiyan saga, it threw you at the Garlic Jr. saga. I didn't understand that those were movies or OVAs or anything. It's like, the hell is the timeline here? Like, Gohan is fine, Piccolo's here, Goku's alive. Why are Piccolo and Goku working together? Why is Goku alive? Spoiler: he fucking died from Raditz. I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, Piccolo killed Goku, but just to stop Raditz.
It was a collaborative effort. All right.
Yeah.
They were like, mind you thought Goku and Raditz were working together. I mean, you thought Goku and Piccolo were working together, but no, it was actually Raditz and Piccolo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can't say that Piccolo wasn't a tiny small way happy to have murdered Goku finally. Also, I didn't know what Dragon Ball was. That was another thing that was weird as hell. Because, like, if you don't know Dragon Ball, and then you go into Dragon Ball Z, and there's a lot of, like, these character relationships, and it's not it's not Shakespeare, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to know these things, but if you knew the relationship between Goku and Piccolo, it makes it a little more meaningful, like, what was going on.
Yeah.
I was so confused when I would see Dragon Ball. I'm like, wait a minute. Did Dragon Ball come out as a prequel after Dragon Ball Z? Was I supposed to know this? And again, I referred back to the SNES cart I had for Dragon Ball Z, which was literally called Dragon Power, and it was playing as Kid Goku. So it was like, wait a minute. If I started off as the kid, and the kid exists first, then what the hell am I watching now?
I mean, we ended up getting the short end on the stick. But to be fair, there were 2 attempts to localize Dragon Ball, the original one. The first one was back in the late 80s, but it was from Harmony Gold.
Yep.
And that dub only lasted for 13 episodes, and it ended around the time when, like, they had the Dragon Ball stolen, and then Emperor Pilaf ended up just, like, making that wish. Only for Ulan to interfere. And then, like, they never went to the tournament arc or anything, so they just stopped there. And then 95 was when Funimation ended up getting the Dragon Ball license, but they had a completely weird dub, which again did not last. So they just went straight to Z, but using a Canadian voice cast with Saban. They teamed,
AKA Ocean Dub.
Yeah, the Ocean Dub. So they used them for the first 2 seasons up until, like, I believe the last episode that they dubbed over here, it was called Goku Super Saiyan, which he didn't transform into Super Saiyan, but this was the first time that we were ever hear of the Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I was like, okay, I can't wait to see what happens next. Then all of a sudden, the next episode was back to episode 1, the arrival of Raditz. And I'm like, oh man, we had to wait like a full year just for Dragon Ball Z to come in.
So about that, I found out something very cool when I was younger, because I was getting tired of waiting for Toonami's convoluted timeline happening with Dragon Ball Z and all the time paradoxes and going back and forth between episode 1 and 26. So I did the smart thing, because my mom would take me to Blockbuster. Again, I love Blockbuster. It is like my life there. But she used to take me to Blockbuster, and she would always buy me at least 3 video cassettes of Dragon Ball Z. And little did I know in my little brain was that the video cassettes were actually more recent than the Toonami episodes released. So they would come out before, like, the new season would start on Toonami. So I was always ahead of the game. And people were like, that's not what happened. I'm like, yeah, about that. It kind of does. I accidentally spoke because I thought, like, it was on Toonami, and I didn't have cable. Like, during 3rd grade, my cable got, like, cut off, so... Yeah. You know, I couldn't tell anyone if it was a spoiler or not, because I didn't know if it came out or not. I just knew that my videotapes were, like, ahead of the time. Like, when you guys stopped... an example would be the Majin Buu saga for Dragon Ball Z. You remember that we had a long break in between when Vegeta basically sacrificed his life to take out Majin Buu?
Yeah.
I already knew that there was a Super Buu and an Evil Buu during that time because of the video cassettes.
Yeah.
And people were like, why are you making these predictions? I'm like, they're not predictions, they're facts.
Because this is the time that, like, all the information was so rampant online, right? Like, there was, first of all, the misinformation or just, like, confusing information from kids, like, claiming to know what's going on through bootleg VHSs and stuff, too, right?
Yeah.
I had a ton of those, and they were mistranslated. and there was a bunch of weirdness. I remember even like you were talking about Super Saiyan, right? Goku Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
This is before we knew what a Super Saiyan looked like. So the assumption was that he was Super Saiyan when he was doing like Kaioken.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he looks different. He has red hair and red energy. He must be Super Saiyan. And then this was also around the time where there was like, oh fuck, I forget what it's called, but on GeoCities, there was a bunch of fan art, and they made like Super Saiyan 4 before GT, and then like alternate Super Saiyans with like red hair and long, and it was like alternate universe or something. There was so much weird speculation because there was such a trickle of factual information in the US market with this. No one knew what the hell things were, and it was kind of a golden period, right? We constructed our own sort of like universe with this, our own canon with this, because we got like so little. And like Hito was saying, like if you had the VHSs, you were a little bit ahead of the game, but the stuff that we were saying was so wild that people would be like, "Oh, you're speculating. You're full of shit. Like I don't know what you're talking about with these things." No, I'm 6 episodes ahead because each VHS has 3 episodes for $30.
Yeah.
Right, and it was well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, because I remember, like, just having to just wait a while. But here's the thing. I randomly flipped through a channel one time, like, and it ended up being, I don't remember if it was either Univision or Telemundo. They had a Spanish dub for Dragon Ball Z, and they were way ahead of where we were. Like, because, like, I remember around this time we were in the Cell Saga, but they were somewhere, like, within the Majin Buu, and it was completely out of context. I don't remember which episode it was, but I remember, like, because at the time, like, they had scenes where you see Trunks as a kid, and you have Goten. I believe they might have been, like, fighting in the tournament while everyone else, like, as, like, that, I think it was Mighty Mask or something. Like, they were pretending to be, like, this one person so they could participate in the adult thing, because most of the, like, adult fighters left just so that they can deal with the whole Majin Buu thing. And I didn't get to see the whole thing because it was, like, I couldn't understand it. Like, despite the fact that I'm a Hispanic male, but it was wild that, like, they were ahead. Like, I was like, I've never seen anything like this before, and yet, like, we were behind. This was, like, right sometime, like, during or, like, close to the end of the Cell Saga, but before the Majin Buu saga started for us. Plus, I had the whole entire series spoiled before I even got to Cell. Like, people told me everything. People told me about, like, the characters, like the androids, Cell, Trunks, and everything, and even going as far as Majin Buu, like Videl, also the fact that Gohan was dating Videl, and the fact that we had Majin Buu and everything, Gotenks, everything. I've been spoiled, like, right before I even got up to that point. I'm like, wow. Even GT spoilers, too. I've even had some GT spoilers.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
Didn't happen.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It didn't happen. But, like, it's so weird. Like, I've had people. That was the only anime I've ever actually had spoiled, besides Pokemon, of course. But yet I never got spoiled on other anime in general. Just Dragon Ball Z, because, like, that. Besides Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z was, like, the most popular anime that I knew growing up, and it's insane, because I remember everybody would talk about these games, like, and people talk about the games as well. Like, for example, I remember for so long looking at listings of games with, like, from the late 90s, and there was one game I would see that's Dragon Ball related that we got that was going for like hundreds of dollars, and that was Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. And guess what?
Oh, yeah.
That game is crap.
That's terrible.
That game is crap. Like, although Ultimate Battle 22 is a much worse game.
They're both awful, and they both got localizations. But I ended up playing Final Bout. I had to get like an adapter or something to play it. But it was like, oh my god, I get to play this Japanese game, and all the characters are so far ahead and everything, and you just get your ass kicked over and over and over. The attack animations are like incredibly like slow and janky, and you get to fight Baby at the end, and you don't know how to attack him because he's so goddamn big.
Yeah,
the whole thing was just not great.
I actually got Ultimate 22 from. You remember this? You remember Circuit City?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I picked up Ultimate 22 in like one of their bins. It's called Circuits in Circuit City, and I managed to pick that game up. I also bought Irritating Stick that day too. Yeah. They were in literally the discard pile for $5 each. And I'm
Oh
like,
my god.
it's a Dragon Ball Z game. Who would dare put this in the $5 bin? It's Dragon Ball Z. It's on TV. It got video cassette. It got toys. It is becoming the mass phenomenon. It's becoming the new Pokemon.
Yeah.
Hello? And legitimately, it was hilarious. It was. I found out later that it was not that good of a game. It was just me being a kid and falling for the propaganda of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And so I was like, huh, I don't know if this game is good or not, but I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as everything else goes, I'm going to switch to the next topic now, which is what were some of your favorite shows on Toonami? Starting with you, SuperNinBow.
Favorite shows? I mean, The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest obviously is the superior show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what the actual shows are. Dragon Ball, probably. Sailor Moon, Gundam Wing. I liked the Big O a lot.
Oh,
I know
Big
a lot
O.
of people don't remember that too much, but I liked it because I thought it was literally somehow related to Batman. Because Roger is literally Batman with a giant mecha, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
With a robot maid and an assassin butler, it's freaking great. What else was there? I mean, yeah, like the original lineup of that was great. I remember I sometimes conflate Adult Swim shows and Toonami shows because there was a lot of cross-pollination between the two, right? Like, for example, Yu Yu Hakusho is one of my favorite shows ever. That started on Adult Swim, and then they put it on Toonami as, like, a watered-down version.
Yeah, it did.
But I always thought of it as a Toonami show because it's so... It's not like a very adult show. Like, it has more adult elements, and it's centralized around this theme of death and redemption and more heady themes than you would usually see. But it's a shonen, right? Like, it's meant, for, like, teenage kids.
Yes.
So, I mean, if I was to give a completely vanilla answer with no caveats whatsoever, I'd probably say Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But Yu Yu Hakusho, if I'm allowed to, like, finagle just a tiny bit, I'd probably say that's up there at least at number 2.
Oh, I'm going to talk about Yu Yu Hakusho in a little bit. I have a lot to say. But first, like... do you have any other favorites?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the whole original lineup I enjoyed. Like I said, I stopped watching it around 2008 or so.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Gundam Wing, obviously, and then there was the Midnight Run version of Gundam Wing, which is freaking cool. That was one of the ones where like they actually got to kind of flex a little bit, like the blood and the violence and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I going to see booby? And we didn't, but... I was like, maybe they might go this far. Little did I know it's not even in there, so don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
But what else was on Midnight Run? It was Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing,
Outlaw Star.
Outlaw. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Outlaw Star. Yeah.
That one did, but they did it because they're cowards, and they'll never show the hot tub episode.
Yeah.
You gotta get the DVDs for that.
Well, there was a lot of other stuff in general. Like I remember just watching, like, I didn't really watch a lot of Outlaw Star, but when I did watch of it, I've actually enjoyed it though.
It's great. It's interesting to look back on. I've had this conversation in my chat a lot. One of my alerts is Outlaw Star, so it brings this up a lot. Gene Highwind is a really interesting protagonist in that he's really imperfect. He's a huge dickhead, and you can look at him as having like this really nice progressive arc into becoming a better human being overall. But I think he's one of those protagonists that's just like so instantly unlikable in the first few episodes that the buy-in for him is much more different than like a kind-hearted, like, optimistic character like a Goku or like a Sailor Moon. I was going to say a Hero Yui. That guy's also a shithead, but
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's very, very different. And I completely forgot that Outlaw Star was on there because Outlaw Star, if you're talking about stuff that like should not be on Toonami, I would definitely switch like Outlaw Star to Adult Swim and Yu Yu Hakusho strictly to Toonami. Yu Yu is a shonen.
Yeah.
And I think Outlaw Star is firmly situated in like seinen territory.
Yeah. Now, Hito, what are some of your favorite shows from Toonami?
So I didn't get to enjoy Toonami as much as I wanted to as a younger youth because I had to deal with no cable. But I I of course enjoyed Dragon Ball Z. I loved Yu Yu Hakusho, and to this day, Kurama is still like one of the more comparable characters I can tend to compare myself with.
Yeah.
Not being the full demon and being somewhat like murder decisive as a decision, but love Kurama to this day, still do.
Yeah.
There's just something about him. Definitely love
It's
Sailor
divine
Moon.
whips.
It's the whips.
It's the
okay?
whips, yes.
It's thorns and whips excite me. Anyway,
and he's also the voice of reason of the main four characters.
Thank you. Next one is Sailor Moon. I got into Sailor Moon, funny enough, during the Outer Sailor Scouts arc. So I got to see Uranus and Neptune, and then part of me was like, Uranus is a boy, and then I'm like, no, Uranus is not a boy. That's Haruka. Haruka's a girl. I'm like, oh, so they're cousins. And they're like, yeah, cousins.
That's obviously less problematic, right?
Right? Like, cousins. I didn't know cousins kind of get that close with each other. Just saying. But my point still stood, at least when it came down to it. I knew that they were dating, and then I knew Haruka was like, so yeah, it made me confused when I was younger because Deke felt the need to have to hide the fact that they were in a relationship because, as NimBow said, less problematic. It threw me off so badly. Another one that I used to love before it moved to Adult Swim was Big O. Big O was a great one with Roger and Dorothy. I love me some Big O.
Yeah.
It's the nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
And then if we go into the 2000s when I got my cable back, Blue Dragon was one that I enjoyed. Zatch Bell was another one. Which, by the way, if y'all don't know, the same voice actor for Zatch is Jimmy Neutron.
Yes.
So have fun with that idea.
I remember that.
Have fun with that.
Yes.
And Blue Dragon was another one because when you think of Blue Dragon, you're going to automatically think Dragon Ball Z because Akira Toriyama did the art for Blue Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the story as well. It's based on the 360 game that came out.
Yes, you're correct.
And let's also give a side note to Bobo because why not?
Yes, that's a good one right there. Very good.
I've never even tried to say that out loud. I would like visually recognize it written out, but I'm like, fuck it. I know exactly what this is.
Yeah, but yeah, those are a lot of good shows, guys. Like I have a lot myself that I want to talk about, but first and foremost, my favorite show on Toonami is also my all-time favorite anime, and that show is Yu Yu Hakusho. I love it so much.
Show.
No,
overrated. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
4 different fighting protagonists and battle tournaments. Ugh.
no, but
With
like,
all that drip. I
okay.
hate when my characters know how to dress.
Yeah.
And they change their outfit periodically.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Threw
How
me
can I
off.
even recognize them?
No, but in all seriousness, though, I absolutely love the show. Like for me, like I remember first hearing about it, not on Toonami, but I was randomly. It was like on a Saturday night. I was just flipping through channels after watching some shows, and I'm like, Adult Swim happened to be on, and this was around the time Adult Swim was doing anime nights on Saturdays. This was like 2000. This was like around like early 2002 that I was watching, and at the time I didn't really watch all the episodes yet, but I don't remember which episode it was, but it was there. That's how I first found out about it, and then I didn't really see it again until like sometime in the spring of 2003. They were airing a lot of commercials for it. So they were airing commercials, like advertising the show. I'm like, wait, this was on Adult Swim. I remember seeing it. I was in 10th grade, and what I remember was just watching the show the moment that it first aired on Toonami. Like they started from the first episode, and I just could not get enough. I couldn't get enough of the fact that like just watching like how Yusuke gets hit by the car after saving that little boy's life because he was a troublemaker. He was a delinquent. did not care about school, did not care about his family, didn't really care about his friends. He just cared about just kicking people's asses and picking fights with gangs, including picking fights with Kuwabara, who would go on to be one of my favorite characters in the show.
Whoa. Other way around. Let's be real.
Oh, it's the other way around, yeah. Kuwabara was the one that picked fights with Yusuke and gets his ass whooped. Though Kuwabara did eventually get a lot better as the time rolls on. Was later, like, introduced to, like, Hiei, Kurama, and oh my god, Kurama is such an amazing character. Like, whoever thought of that character was a genius. Hiei, badass, very badass as a character. I'll be real. Botan's another good character too.
She's my favorite. She's my favorite character because, like, whenever you imagine the Grim Reaper, that's not what you imagine.
Yeah.
And I feel like she should have been like the fifth member, honestly. Like, I feel like she should have had some sort of like dormant power or like some sort of, you know how like everyone has a manifestation? It's almost like Persona. Everyone has a manifestation in Yu of like their powers, right?
Yeah.
Like Yusuke has Spirit Gun, Kuwabara has the sword. I feel like she should have had something. Maybe it's just like her ore becomes like a spear or something. I just liked her character all the time, and like it was an interesting and subversive show, like with having such a shithead protagonist, but he was likable, unlike Outlaw Star, right? Like, Yusuke immediately is just like a little troublemaker. He fits like that juvenile delinquent sort of archetype, but you see immediately that he has a heart of gold. He sacrifices himself in episode 1. That first arc that you go through is so different from anything else I had seen. Like, literally the whole first arc of this show is about death, redemption, mourning, grief, friendship, love, and then it gets into the fighting stuff, and you can almost like delineate these. Like, the first part is like this separate kind of character focused show. This second part is like this tournament arc, typical shonen show. And it did all those things, and I wish it would have like went maybe a little bit further and like having someone like Botan be like, you know, have more like female members of a shonen fighting like cast, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, just having all these characters in general, like showing off their fighting styles, and then you also have a very interesting character in the form of Genkai, who is a much stronger mother figure to Yusuke than even his own mother. Like, she actually put so much care into Yusuke, training him to unleash his inner potential as a spirit detective and as a fighter. And the fact that he would go on to win that tournament, the Dark Tournament, with Team Urameshi, that was just one of my favorite. Like, that's actually my favorite arc. The Dark Tournament saga is my favorite.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like you had other ones. You had, for example, the Sensui saga. Like I think they call it Chapter Black with Sensui.
Yes.
Yes. And then
it was video black, something black.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That was probably like the most serious arc I've ever seen. Just dealt with so much. And then I wasn't the biggest fan of the last arc, which was the Three Kings saga, where Yusuke went to the demon world and all that. Not the biggest fan of that one, but I did enjoy the ending. Like, the ending was fantastic. And overall, like, the show was always, like, one of my favorites, if not my favorite ever for anime. But yeah, like, Genkai was definitely an amazing teacher, like what Dari said. There was just so much great shows, but then it's like I did get to watch like the unedited version of Yu Yu Hakusho, everything as it was meant to be with the English dub. One of the best English dubs, actually. Like, all the voice actors put all their work into it from start to finish. One of the best.
I'd watch that any day of the week over sub.
Yeah, like, of course, Dragon Ball Z is another one. Like, then I watched Dragon Ball, like, because I remember watching Dragon Ball, and at the time it's like I already know a lot of these characters because I see them in Z. But at the time, I didn't really see certain characters talk much. I didn't really see Ulan talk much. I didn't see Poir talk much, and I would see Yamcha more. And seeing young Goku and Bulma, like, it's just funny how everything all started just because Bulma randomly found Goku in like a forest as Goku was just getting a big fish, and then like all of that started because he has the 4-star ball, and then like Bulma had 2 other Dragon Balls, and then you just have like both of them decided to just make a pact to go around searching for the other Dragon Balls so that they could make a wish, and that's how it started. But to me, the real meat and the potatoes of Dragon Ball was during like the World Martial Arts tournaments. I love the tournament arcs more than any of the other arcs. Although I will say, I think I like the Red Ribbon Army saga a lot more than the King Piccolo, or even like from like the original saga, like the beginning before the first tournament. But I absolutely love Dragon Ball. But Dragon Ball Z, great stuff. Though I will always defend the Dragon Ball, the Buu saga. Like, Buu saga is pretty good, but obviously the best one is, like, for me, Frieza.
I actually started with the Cell saga for me, and that will always be my favorite, and cement Gohan as like my favorite Dragon Ball Z character, especially when remember how I said that I got into Dragon Ball Z a little late? I got in during the Android and Cell saga.
Yeah.
So it was confusing how they mixed the two together, and I didn't know Gohan went through this great growth until, like, again, video cassettes, because they also had the old ones too. I bought a whole bunch of the video cassettes, and I actually saw Gohan's little journey going from little kid that does not know how to fight all the way to what was really just beating the hell up out of Cell.
Yep. Let's see, other shows, like, I watched some Sailor Moon, and funny enough, the creator of Sailor Moon and the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho are husband and wife.
Husbandos.
Yep.
Husbando and waifu.
Yep.
Sorry.
Well, they both got married, like, they're both together. 2 highly prolific anime, like, I kind of wonder how things would happen if they were to cross over. But anyway, other shows, let's see. Hamtaro's another one. Zoids. There were 2 Zoid shows I've watched. There was like one where they were battling for prize money, and then there was another one where it felt like it was like a post-apocalyptic world. Sorry, I can't say it right. And what happened was you would have all these travelers with their own Zoids teaming up together, and then all of a sudden, like, it was a lot more dark. It was serious. They call it Chaotic Century. Though I never got to finish the series. Like, they actually had like an event where they showed off the final 4 episodes. I unfortunately did not get to see it, but I'm gonna have to watch it at some point. But I did enjoy that show.
Wasn't Zoids based on like these like little models? I never watched it, but I saw that Zoids were always at the hobby store.
Yeah, they had like models, like they had like these like it's like mechs that they had, and it was actually pretty interesting that they made them. Other shows, let's see. There was a Cyborg 009 reboot during that time.
Oh, that was great.
That was
great. Amazing. That's how I got into Tezuka stuff.
Yeah.
So
also, we also failed to bring up Tenchi Muyo.
Oh yeah, Tenchi Muyo.
Yeah. Oh,
Tenchi Muyo, yes. Now that's a show.
That happened. That's. Wait, Slayers is on Toonami?
Well, no. Whatchamacallit, I got into, what I meant to say was because of Tenchi Muyo, I got into Slayers too, because I had like the same aesthetic in some ways.
Yeah.
That really fucked with me for a second. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Slayers is on what?
But there was one popular anime that did air on Toonami back in like 2003, but only aired 2 episodes. No one will ever guess which one it is unless I say it. And you want to know which one it is?
What year did you say?
2003.
2003.
Because they had like this robot
2
week.
episodes is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah,
because ADV had their week of mecha. I forget what it was called, but it was like Giant Robot Week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it was, Giant Robot Week.
It was Giant Robot Week, and there was Evangelion.
But there was also a very classic anime from, I believe, the 50s or the 60s, Gigantor. That aired.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In black and white and everything.
I think they had Getter Robo, Gigantor, Evangelion. Shit, I'm missing something.
I don't remember Puni Puni Poemi. I don't remember that show.
Oh god, I don't think that would have ever been on Toonami.
I don't think
not the old one, maybe the new one.
Yeah, it would most likely air on the new one, but the old one, no. Like, though, I remember there was a time where around like 2004, they ended up switching formats. They decided to drop Toonami as a weekday thing and only air on Saturday nights. And what I remember from that was there was a couple of other anime that they were airing. They had a show called Rave Master, which I thought was interesting. They had they had Knights of the Zodiac, which is actually like Saint Seiya.
Saint Seiya.
Saint Seiya. Yeah, but
Saint Seiya.
I actually watched Knights of the Zodiac, and I did not like the dub. I'll have to just watch the original Japanese dub of Saint Seiya instead.
You don't like the opening?
Like,
I ran so far away by bowling for soup. Come on.
And another one I know like that they had was they had a card game show that was competing with like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon card game called Duel Masters.
Yep.
Yeah, that aired on Toonami. I believe it had 2 seasons. And one of the standout things I remember from that, like they had random celebrities, like they just plastered random celebrities. Like there was this show on Fox called Greg the Bunny. They actually plastered that on there too, saying that he was like the second best duelist in the world. And there was a character on the show. He was very short. I don't remember his name because it's been a while since I watched that, but he always had a catchphrase saying, "I'm not a squirrel." Same guy that voices Invader Zim. Yeah, that show was actually interesting. But I also remember, like, just, like, a bunch of non-anime airing. Like, Teen Titans aired on there, too.
Yep.
And Justice League. We had Justice League and Teen Titans on there. But there was another show that Cartoon Network aired on Toonami that they cannot legally air on Cartoon Network ever again because it was written as a tax write-off because it bombed, apparently. And
Megas XLR?
Yes, Megas XLR. That aired for 2 seasons, got canceled, and Cartoon Network can't do anything about it. Which is a shame because that show was actually, like, one of my favorites back then. Like, you had, like, these 2 guys in New Jersey who happened to discover this mech that came from a different time period, and then there was also someone that came with that mech, and it was great. It was a great show. But yeah, Toonami had just so many great shows overall. But I remember the most was around like 2005. They started like shifting to like Bo, and that was around the time when they had Naruto. Like that was when Naruto started here in the United States. Which, I'll be very real, I kind of tuned out. I couldn't get into Naruto. I know a lot of people who love Naruto, but I just could not get into it.
I'm with you. I actually tried to watch it. I think maybe I was too old at that point for like that kind of shonen, especially if I knew it was a long haul. Like even now, dude, I have a hard time getting into something like One Piece, and I'm sure One Piece is fucking amazing. I really want to watch it.
It is great.
I don't have enough time in the world to get through this at this point. So maybe I'll watch it until like, you know, I'm on my fucking deathbed. Apparently it's ending.
Yeah, it is
Apparently
ending.
It's ending.
Yeah, it's the last arc, and I will cry about it.
But
because
go ahead.
I've been a good fan since 2000, since it first came out when it was on Shonen Jump. Before it became an anime on Foxbox, where we got the really bad opening.
That was what turned me off.
Best opening ever.
Like that was actually what turned me off. I did not watch it then, and then like
Shellshock.
What?
Shellshock. Yo ho ho! He took a bite of gum gum. What are you
Oh
talking
my
about?
god! Oh my
Don't
god!
give it up. Don't give it up.
And then when it aired on Toonami, they decided they switched from 4Kids to Funimation, which I will say though, like I watched like an episode, like because I was just getting through it to watch something else that was on Toonami at the time, And I will say, like, it's definitely better, but I should. And I was thinking my mentality in which that I should have just watched it from the beginning and then go in to watch more. But you know what? Eventually, I'll have to find a way to just settle down and just watch it from like start to finish. Except it will finish, yeah, because there was another 4Kids show that did air on Toonami, and that was Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which
Generation X. Game on.
it was okay. It was okay. It's not the best show, but it's okay. But here's the thing: like Toonami was kind of like winding down a bit, like around like the late 2000s. The quality of the anime that they were airing, with the exception of a few, with the exception of a few like standouts, is just like, it just stopped being so great. Like the Toonami as a block, it got to the point where they ended up just killing it off in 2008. Like 2008, 2009, they killed it off, and then it was on hiatus for a few years. And the funny thing is, I remember like 10 years ago, around April Fools, they brought it back because usually every year, Adult Swim, they would have this April Fool's joke where they would show The Room. And then in 2012, they started doing that. They showed like the opening to the movie The Room, only for it to cut to like you would see Tom watching it, then turns it off, and then like that changed everything. Then they just showed classic. They would show like a random episode of like a lot of the Toonami shows that aired on Toonami back in the day, like Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Gundam Wing, and so much more. Though they did start with Bleach, but after that, like they showed off a lot of anime there, and then it was well received to the point where like people wanted Toonami back. It was trending on Twitter, and at the time, Twitter back then was a much different place than how it is now. And people wanted it. They gave it to us. Toonami came back in 2012, and it's still going on. Now celebrating its 25th anniversary. It's just crazy, though.
Oh, it came back at the perfect time. I think, like, boomers like us, like, they knew that we had, like... It was the perfect time to strike, like, right? Like, you introduce a new audience to more current stuff, and you make Toonami a sub-block of Adult Swim in which you can play more adult stuff, and it can be uncensored. Like, I was looking today at, like, what they're currently airing, and it's, like, a bunch of shit you would never see on, like, the old ones. Basically, it's Adult Swim. It's just more anime-centric and playing, like, shonen-type stuff, but, like, not censoring it.
Yeah.
But it's great because it's taking care of two purposes, right? It's bringing us back into the fold, people who grew up with this, and like we're old enough to have member berries about it, and like we go and we just eat the member berries. But then you have younger kids, and anime is like a thing that's like culturally accepted now, right? Like it's a celebrated thing.
Yeah.
I go down the freeway and I see cars with anime stickers. I'm like, man, when I was a kid, like I would get my ass kicked if people saw the inside of my locker.
Yeah.
It was like all like printed at home berserk stuff, and you know, like, and nowadays it's very different. The climate's different, and it's amazing. So they're getting people like us that grew up with it, and they're still showing a lot of the stuff I think that we grew up with, and then introducing a lot of other stuff like Hunter x Hunter or JoJo or things like that are more popular with the kids.
Yeah.
So I think they struck when the iron was hot with that.
Like I remember they would have like they had Naruto Shippuden. They kept airing One Piece. They're still airing One Piece. My Hero Academia. They would have One Punch Man, Attack on Titan. Yeah. But now I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is what are some shows that aired on Toonami you guys felt deserve love or deserve more love? Because like, while yes, we could talk about the Dragon Ball Z's, the Yu Yu Hakushos, the Sailor Moons, the Gundam Wings, and all that. But what about some shows that not many people really talk about as much as the bigger shows that aired? So, Hito, I'll have you go first this time.
Alright, so I have three. I have three specific ones. Outlaw Star being one, because, again, remember how I said Midnight Run was the ruiner of my sleep schedule? So, if for those of you who are in the know about Toonami, they had a block called Midnight Run. They would start literally at midnight, and they will open it with Dragon Ball Z. You know, because they know that that was the cash cow of Toonami at that time.
Yeah.
They'll open off with Dragon Ball Z. This is how I got into the Cell Saga, by the way. Android 18 got absorbed. Yeah, there you go. That's enough to scare the crap out of somebody. But make it worse. Right after Dragon Ball Z, such a strong opener, Outlaw Star was right after. And because of the fact that Dragon Ball Z was before it, you know everybody was kind of like there for Dragon Ball Z, but not so much for Outlaw Star. So honestly, let's give Outlaw Star more love. And also, just for a fraction, if you have Hulu, you can see the whole series of Outlaw Star on Hulu. And there's also another site that I have, which I can share with you in private DMs, just saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
I have other sites that I got to watch my old anime, so we're still good.
Yes.
We also have Zatch Bell.
Yes.
Zatch Bell, I read the manga to before I thought that Jimmy Neutron could voice Zatch. I read the manga to I read the manga to Zatch Bell. It was a pretty interesting concept, and I love the idea of the Momotos. It was a really good game as well, because they had three video games. There was a Game Boy Advance one and two GameCube ones, they were fighting games, but they were kind of like... You remember Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Where you were able to just float around and do the fighting combos. It was like that, but with Zatch Bell characters, and the Mamoto carriers and the Mamotos themselves with the spell books. And it was an interesting concept. It's called Mamoto Battle and Mamoto Fury. They're both for the GameCube, and they were really interesting. But yeah, Zatch Bell deserved more love because it went unfinished during a very important time of the show. Like, in the US, we stopped at the 50s, but I think somewhere in the UK, they stopped at 113, which I was still able to finish watching it because they still voiced the characters, so it helped out. They kind of switched it to an online service for Toonami, which we didn't get to see much of Zatch Bell afterwards. And then finally, I want to give some love to Blue Dragon. The story was actually pretty cool to listen to because, you know, Akira Toriyama, we have the most randomest of stories. People were like, oh, Akira Toriyama's only good for Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, no, it's not. No, he's not, because we have things like Chrono Trigger that exists and is still like a great freaking awesomeness to know that. Yes, Square Enix wrote the story, but Akira Toriyama would not entrust his art for a story he did not believe in. I would like to say that for a matter.
Yeah.
And Akira Toriyama did the art, and I also believe story for Blue Dragon, which was a very interesting topic of 7 legendary shadow warriors trying to bring an end of the world ending. And the way they did it was actually pretty interesting. And you got to see character development to its wazoo. So Blue Dragon was one of the last few animes that were on Toonami before the shutdown and then the rebirth of it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are mine.
All right. What about you, Ninbao?
Oh, Reboot.
Reboot, yeah.
Reboot.
And they rebooted that into a live action thing, and I don't know what the hell. I kind of watch it. Like I watched one episode or something, and I was just like, so it was an acid trip, and it's like, what is happening? Like literally, the show is premised on being this like state-of-the-art use of CGI. I don't know if you guys know this. It's interesting. But the Money for Nothing video.
Yeah.
Where it's like the two guys, like it's like the block CGI guys. That I guess it was produced. It must have been the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same people that worked on Reboot later on. And the creators of Reboot hated the notoriety of this video so much, with such a fiery fucking passion, that there was an episode of Reboot where they brought on the two characters from Money for Nothing, and they literally, like within 2 seconds of them playing the song, got a comically large cane and dragged them off the stage, and I presumably murdered them. I think they fell into a murder pit or something. And, you know, honestly, like, I think for being as cutting edge as it was as far as animation goes, to reboot as a non-animated thing was the weirdest fucking decision they could have made. And honestly, I think it really deserves to have a reboot, like a legitimate reboot of that world, of that animation style. And no longer is it like, you know, a spectacle for the eyes. It's no longer a buffet for the senses. But I think it was a really cool thing. And also, they literally had Ash Williams from The Evil Dead in it. which, come on, like, you gotta do that. You gotta love that. So reboot, I'd agree with you with Outlaw Star. I don't see a lot of people talking about that. I think it's overshadowed by Trigun and Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Because you always have to put the 98 cowboy space western anime together. But yeah, I mean those would be mine. And then Big O, I mean they never made a season 2. What a tragedy that was.
Yeah. It's such a shame.
Big O.
Yeah. As far
if they did, I'm sure it would be perfectly sensible and wouldn't be weird, and it wouldn't become Neon Genesis Evangelion. It'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. As far as shows that I think that deserve more love and attention from Toonami, Hamtaro, easily for me. And what made me sad is because, like, here's the thing: I like that show because of how cute, like, the hamsters were, like. Because, like, when you see, like,
Fair enough.
when you see the hamsters, like, and you see, like, the hamster owners and humans, they don't speak at all. They just act like just regular hamsters. But the moment the humans are away, that's when everything changes. Like, you would see the hamsters, or the ham-hams, or the ham-hams is what they call them. Like, they would just talk, chill, go on adventures, cause a little bit of mischief, but it was all in good fun. But apparently the English dub was never finished. In fact, we only got 2 seasons, and then they just stopped. But in Japan, they kept going. Like, they kept going even longer. Like, I think they ended around 2006 or 2007 in Japan. They never finished it outside of Japan. And that's a shame, because I was enjoying it. And it was just so weird that... Because here's the thing. Because you had so many action shows that were airing on Toonami, and then you just had this slice of life adventure show with the hamsters, and it was just completely different. So of course it was going to get my attention. And whenever I think highly about, like, some of my favorite shows on Toonami, that's definitely up there for me as one of my all-time favorites. Another show that I've actually wished had more love, but honestly didn't. To me, I've always honestly felt that, like, even though as much as I like Zoids, I remember, like, just neither one of them, like, as much as good shows they were, they just didn't really it just didn't really catch on here, like Gundam did. Gundam just took off, like, easily, but Zoids, like, while it did okay, it just wasn't really anywhere near as big as Gundam was. But I will say this, though. I actually do think that Megas XLR deserved a lot more love. A shame that it did not, like, get a lot of ratings, and it's a shame that it didn't really get a lot of support from Cartoon Network. But the fact that it aired on Toonami, granted on Saturday nights, I still enjoyed it. I still had fun with it. Though, I will say, I just want to get this out of the way right now. The one Gundam I tried to get into, and I just never got into Gundam afterwards, was SD Gundam.
Yeah.
I picked the wrong Gundam to try to get into. And then, like, I'm going to have to go back and watch Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam Seed, Gundam Wing, G Gundam. I want to watch them. I regret actually trying to get into SD Gundam. I don't know why. Like, I guess, like, just the designs of the characters, and then I'm like, no, this is not good. Like, it just wasn't good at all.
It's literally the, like, polar opposite of what Gundam is, because Gundam, in its essence... So you say you've never seen Mobile Suit Gundam, the original?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Gundam is premised... You would think that it's like this thing where it's a vehicle to sell toys, right?
Yeah.
And it was. Don't get me wrong. They sold a lot of models. But in essence, it's like a heavy-handed anti-war, very politically driven show with a very pacifistic message, and it explores these really interesting themes of, like, transhumanism in war and human nature and stuff like that. And then they make a thing like SD Gundam where it's like tiny little chibi Gundams fighting each other, and, like, they're not all as heady as MSG, But there's a whole okay, I could get into this a lot, but there's like a whole thing called Universal Century, which is the canon for MSG for things like 8th MS Team, 0080, 0083, Char's Counterattack, Zeta, Double Zeta, just shit ton of stuff, and they're all like very war centric. And then you get G Gundam, in which there is an annual fighting tournament held in which every country has their own giant robot themed after the country. How do you know, you ask? Well, let me tell you. I think it's Neo Holland, has a giant windmill Gundam. And Mexico has a tequila Gundam. And France has a Gundam Rose with a rose and a rapier. Gundam Maxter in America has guns and big boxing gloves.
Yeah.
It's the most in-your-face, dumbass, like, quasi, perhaps even just overtly racist thing. But there's a part of it that's just so goddamn stupid that it still makes me laugh. And it's definitely different, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
And it has a sombrero. That's right, Ice Pick.
Oh my
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I can't
It's like they tried to share culture, but they took every stereotype and just threw it on a freaking robot.
It
Oh,
sure,
they did, and that's literally what it was.
It definitely does. Like, and there's a lot of things that just don't hold up well, and that's definitely
No.
one of them.
No. No.
Yeah.
You know what does hold up though? Some of the lines that we got for our English dubbing. Example, one of the lines being from Yu Yu Hakusho. Funny enough, where everyone says the joke that Yusuke's hands are rated E for everyone, it will be because of that one thing he says to the female fighter that he was fighting in the not Suzaku arc, the Yukina retrieval arc.
Yeah.
The prologue before the Dark Tournament.
Yeah.
Which
Around the
was
time.
which he was like, I don't care if she's a woman, a baby, or someone's grandma. I'll still knock her out. I'm like,
Oh my god.
I'm like, equality for everybody. We love this.
So basically-
you're treating the fighter respectfully.
Yeah, Yusuke will just beat up anybody, no matter who it is. That's practically his nature. Like,
But here's the thing: the way that he fought her would definitely be a big disagree at that point. If you remember exactly what he did.
he basically just fights just because that's practically what his life is. It makes him what he is. He just lives to fight. But yeah, like, there's a lot of good dubs, but then there's also some questionable stuff as well in a lot of shows, like what we just mentioned right now, like what was just mentioned about the whole sombrero thing. Yeah, that's definitely not something that would fly today.
I mean, if you look at most of the anime that we used to watch back then, especially in Toonami, if you've seen the uncuts before, like they were aired on Toonami, because Cartoon Network was aware that sometimes anime has that perversion behind it, and they always does.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had, like, situations where Yusuke would hike up Keiko's skirt or feel someone up. Remember, Inuyasha was a big one. Moroku being the ultimate king of this.
Or-
with Sango.
Oh, yeah.
Or even
That's in any Takahashi anime. They have the pervert characters that are like lighthearted perverts. You know, they're just sexually assaulting everyone, and it's fun.
even in Dragon Ball Z, like Master Roshi, like
Yep.
yeah. Like, Master Roshi as a fighter.
That's a fun one to play live. I do that character on stream sometimes when I play Dragon Ball games. And playing Master Roshi can be very problematic. You have to play it in a very conscious way not to do stupid shit.
Yeah.
Or say stupid shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Just remember the person. Remember, just think the person that Master Roshi is thinking about when he's thinking these thoughts is Android 18, and just remember how quickly she can kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just remember that, and you're like, yep, I'm gonna back away from this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, yeah, the other thing also is that there's just so many shows in general that I remember seeing, and I remember this. I remember, like, so many different advertisements and also the intros. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Toonami does not air any of the actual intros for any of these shows. They made like 30-second montage clips with like some weird futuristic type music in the background, and then just said, "Oh, this is the show, and it's on now." And then it just cuts to the start of the episode, which I remember that's exactly what Toonami would always do. Like, it was their bread and butter. Some really It's really cool music.
Something reminded me. So for those of you who don't know, and this is to everyone in chat, by the way, Toonami actually has their OST, their original soundtracks from the old times, literally downloadable. So if you find all the songs, you can find all the songs on YouTube and literally just look. Yep, Deep Space Bass. That's the one. But they also had another one too. They had like 3 different albums. And the reason why I recognize some of these is because remember when the show would originally start in Toonami, they'll give you like a clip show of what the show is going into right now, and they'll play this I know the one song that I remember is Heavy, when they would air Dragon Ball Z, and you would just hear, I will be the prince once again. You just hear Vegeta powering up and everything. It would get you hype. You didn't even need an intro. You didn't need like the opening act of an anime for that. You just had that, and you were just excited. You were like, clips of a show, I'm pumped, let's do this, I'm ready, just
yeah, that's what they wanted to do. They want to get people ready, hyped up just to watch these shows, and especially with the commercials, they would use the same type of music in the commercials to get you hyped up, say, oh, this show looks awesome, I gotta watch this when it airs on Toonami. And they got me like with a couple shows. Yu Yu Hakusho is definitely one of those shows. Like they would show the clip of when Yusuke would get hit, because like obviously they have to, because the focal point is Yusuke dies, then comes back to life, becomes a spirit detective, and then just seeing the commercial for that, I'm like, yes, I need to see more of this show. This show is awesome. I have to watch more.
They glorified it with Zatch Bell too, because they would show all the intense fighting points, but you would never expect that Zatch Bell was a lot more lighthearted than what they portrayed on Toonami. So essentially, they would show all the scenes where Zatch is completely injured and shooting lightning out of his mouth, fighting the other Momotos, and it looks very intense. And it does get intense. Let's not forget, Zatch Bell did get intense. However, freaking when you go into the show, you just realize it's also very lighthearted, and the battles are, and the only thing that really goes into it is like the 5 minutes of battling, to the whole episode being very lighthearted and very comedic at times.
Yeah.
And the Sailor Moon ones were actually great too. Dari just reminded me of that, by the way. The Sailor Moon openings were great. I mean, they weren't action packed, but it was kind of like, it was dramatic. It was kind of like the Spanish telenovela preview before Sailor Moon started, because you would hear the castanets in the background a little bit. So I felt like that moment of like watching a telenovela, but in an intro. And then when you go to the show, you're like, yep, this is actually a very dramatic show, and I love it.
Yeah.
They set the tone, and I like that.
Yeah. So, like, Dari says, I missed the Toonami intros, but then I saw the intros and was kind of mad they never let it go. Yeah, exactly. There was so many great intros, and there was always some great scenes that came from some anime. Like, for example, Yu Yu Hakusho. I always go back to this. I remember they had one where they had like they were this was the Dark Tournament Saga. Like, they beat up a bunch of people because they were trying to get through, so otherwise they'd be eliminated. And then I would hear stuff like, "Go home if you don't want to die." Like that.
Oh, that was the ship. That was when they were on the ship.
Yeah.
Like, you had to be the one to survive on the ship. Otherwise, you just die before you get to the Dark Tournament.
And then Yusuke just beats up people, and then he's like, "And here's the kill!" Yeah. That line is stuck in my head rent free. Such a good show. But
ooh,
there was so many other great stuff too.
Let's not forget the Toonami lessons.
Yeah.
Remember how like we would have Smile Bomb? Yes, I saw the comment. Then Bout. To this day, I can never stop grooving out to Smile Bomb. I'm like that meme of the guy literally grooving to the Neon Evangelion soundtrack. But I'm talking about the life lessons that Tom used to teach during Toonami, like individuality. They would even go into things that were like very controversial, just like talk about the topic, like they will go against bullying and all that stuff. And it was great to see that, you know, the show that I enjoyed, like the shows that I enjoyed and the platform they were behind it also supported the kids that were geeky in culture, that would always get beaten up for watching anime or liking something that was probably girly, Sailor Moon, all this other nonsense. It's like, I love the life lessons that they would give, and Tom would give them in that sweet, sultry voice of his for a robot, but it was still great. It was like, individuality, be yourself, do this. Like, these were like very prime time things that literally resonated with me as a child, because I used to get worried about where I live at least when I went to school. Where I went to school, I used to worry about like people coming after me. I'm like, nope, I just want to do me, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it was Toonami that actually gave me that backbone a little bit with those lessons from Tom, funny enough. That gave me some form of like a backbone to like hear that from someone else. Like hearing, I want to be different. I want to not be the same as everyone else. I want to be who I am. And that's what it was.
Yeah. And it's like so many different motivational stuff to get people, like, not only just to feel good, but also like teaching them so many different things that they should know, and it helps. It's helped. But also, Toonami did game reviews as well. They would review video games back in the day. Like, I remember, that's how I heard about some stuff. That's actually how I heard about the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. They did a review on that. They review games. Like, what I've seen, a lot of the reviews back in the day, it was mostly during like the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era. That era, I remember the most. No, go ahead.
I definitely found out about Wind Waker and Sly Cooper when it first came out through Tom. Like, seeing the Sly Cooper stuff, it actually encouraged me to get the PS2 to get a demo disc of Sly Cooper and then actually buy the game.
He did one for Animal Crossing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, there were some racing games he's done, fighting. He's done so many different things from those eras. But even when they revived, like, I remember they were doing reviews as well. Like, I remember he reviewed Mass Effect 3, which that game got mixed reception. He reviewed that. He reviewed a couple of other games. Like he was mostly reviewing M-rated games because, obviously, with Adult Swim, you're to cater towards adults.
I'm looking here because I'm trying to remind myself, because I remember these, but I don't remember anything specific. And they have Air High's God Bless the Ring. It's a 4 out of 5. I don't know if I give this a lot of credit as far as like a critical avenue goes. What else they have? Any weird ratings in here? There are a lot of 10 out of 10s, a lot of 9 out of 10s.
Yeah.
A lot of them deserve them, though. There's nothing... I'm trying to find one that's like a low rating, and I really can't from these early years.
Oh my god.
Like this was all very flattering.
They actually reviewed Beetle Adventure Racing for the N64 and gave it a 5 out of 5. I wouldn't really give it a 5 out of 5. It's a decent game, but 5 out of 5, I don't think it's that worthy of it, in my opinion. I'm looking at, like... Go ahead.
I found a bad review, finally. Mr. Mosquito got 6 out of 10.
Yes.
I could have seen that coming.
Yeah. That's 6 more than it deserves.
Let's see. They gave Blue Stinger a 1 out of 5, like for Dreamcast. They gave, let's see, looking at this, I see Air Guys here. And then they switched the scale from 5 out of 5 to 10 out of 10. They gave Grandia a 10 out of 10. They gave Perfect Dark a 10 out of 10. Looking at all this,
I'd give Perfect Dark a 10 out of 10. It was great.
Yeah. Metal Slug X a 7 out of 10. But that deserves more, though.
I remember this one vividly, actually, from when it aired. They gave Budokai a 7 out of 10. And that stuck with me because that was the first, like, one of the big Dragon Ball games that came out. Obviously, like, here in the States, it was like one of the, first fighting games. But I remember Tom saying, it's good if you like Dragon Ball, but if you don't, probably want to stay away from it as a fighter. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, oh shit, he's not in Big Funimation's pocket. This must be a real shit review. Like 7 out of 10 for this very Toonami, like one of the most intricately Toonami things. Like, damn.
Oh yeah.
I like Budokai though, so.
Another thing is that looking at this, they gave the GameCube itself a 10 out of 10. Like the system. And
legitimately, it was worth the 10 out of 10. People overlook the GameCube a lot because of its low sales.
Yeah.
But the GameCube is definitely worth the 10 out of 10 because there's a lot of enjoyable games.
I laugh at rating a system.
they like, yeah. Like,
especially on release. Like, I don't know if it was on release that they rated it. It's just like, let it breathe for a second, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, answer your question, they literally did it after 3 months of the release, and I remember this specifically because that's when Pikmin was slowly getting announced as well. Because the initial game that came out for the GameCube was Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
However, they started rating it during the time that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle came out and Pikmin.
Yeah.
Which was about 3 months from the release.
And then you have they also reviewed the original Xbox that spring, and they gave it an 8 out of 10. Let's see what else that we had here. Italian Job, Super Mario Sunshine. Yep, they did Animal Crossing. They gave it a 9 out of 10. But they gave that Godzilla game for GameCube, Destroy All Monsters Melee, a 6.
That was a very slow game. That was a very sluggish game.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with Tom on that one. Yeah. Tom, you were right.
Let's see.
We haven't really gotten a good Godzilla fighting game. I feel like there was King of the Monsters, which was terrible. There was the Godzilla game on Super Nintendo, which was essentially like a simulator game, which was terrible.
Yeah.
Destroy All Monsters, I think, was fine. There's so many bad Godzilla games. And then there's like the ROM hack with the cursed ROM hack, but this is tangential. It's just we deserve a good Godzilla fighting game, or just like a good kaiju fighting game, period.
Oh, they actually reviewed Katamari Damacy. Gave it a 7 out of 10. Looking at this right here. Let's see. Fight Night Round 3. IGPX. Oh, they reviewed Rez in 2004 for PS2. Oh, even going like into the Wii era, like they gave Wii Sports a 9 out of 10. Or 9.5, and like and just looking at all this right here, the last review they did before like the original Toonami stopped was Stuntman Ignition for the 360, which they gave it an 8 out of 10. And their first review from when they came back was a game called I Am Alive for the 360. Yeah, looking at everything here. Catherine. Let's see what else. There's
Catherine,
Yeah.
I actually remember they did the review on Catherine. What was their review score again? I just don't remember.
Catherine was a 7 out of 10. According to them.
That's
low.
That's low.
Yeah.
That's very low.
Yeah,
Vincent Valentine may be a jerk, but he definitely deserves more when it comes to a game rating.
However you feel about the storyline in that game, that puzzle mechanic is incredibly addictive.
And they even made a game within a game with it, with the Rapunzel game, which I enjoy playing that so much.
Yeah. And they gave Shovel Knight an 8 out of 10. I personally think that's a bit too low. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just looking at their game reviews, like they kept doing it. Like they gave Breath of the Wild a 9. They gave like, for example, Cuphead a 9. Battleship.
I give Cuphead a 9.
Battleship Brigade got like an 8.5, which that's a really good game. Looking at this, Smash, Cryptid, the Cadence of Hyrule, like they still do game reviews as well. They reviewed Doom Eternal and gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection got an 8. But then it's like, the most recent review that they did was actually yesterday. Far Changing Tides for like everything, 8.5. Don't really know what that is, but yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool. They introduced a lot of... I think that was a nice thing that they did. They introduced a lot of games that you wouldn't otherwise hear about. Like, I discovered a lot of games... I subscribed to, like, every game magazine around that time, but there were still, like, little oddballs that I wouldn't have given a second chance, excuse me, if they hadn't, like, highlighted it. Even if it didn't get the most flattering review, I'd be like, well, it's on Toonami. Like, it must be something that at least it registered on their radar.
Yeah,
exactly. I know I ended up getting into Destroy All Humans because of Toonami. I tried it out for the PS2. This is when it came out for the PS2. I definitely gave Destroy All Humans a try because, it's on, as NimBow said, it's on Toonami, so it has to be at least somewhat decent.
Yeah.
And make things worse. It was I believe last I remember, it was either rated T or rated M game. So I was like, will my mom buy this game for me? And literally, I just remember she bought me the game, and the first line of the game was, "But they're covered in nipples," and my mom was like losing her mind because they were talking about cows. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, she's regretting her decision.
Yeah. I've seen so many different game reviews that came from Toonami, some of which I remember hearing about, and others in which I've already known because I was reading Nintendo Power or other video game magazines at the time, and it was cool just to see them featured, and I wanted to see more featured in general, and they did. They gave a lot more, but honestly, when I think about like other things Toonami has done, like I've overall enjoyed Toonami in general, and like when it comes to like the shows that they had. Like I'm actually going to segue right now to the next topic. How did Toonami impact you over the years? Which I'll just start with you, Dinbao. How did Toonami impact you?
I mean, it introduced me to the world of anime. That's probably the biggest thing. Like I was saying, I don't know if I said this off stream or on stream, but it was this strange new thing that I didn't really understand. It was like this new adult sort of mysterious. This is like way back when like people didn't really understand anime as a concept here, and those who did were like pretty much the minority. But it introduced me to so many things, and I realized like I think my first one that I got the VHSs for Dragon Ball, but then like I saw Outlaw Star and I knew that was heavily edited, you could tell. And I got the DVDs for that. I'm like, "Oh shit, like this is not for kids. Let's see what other stuff is not for kids." And I ended up just like really steeping myself into anime after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think its lasting legacy on me is just like a lot of really good memories introducing me to anime as an art form. And it's one of the most, I think, nostalgic things for me, just like that whole block. It was in such like a plastic period in my life, like that prepubescent period where you're still trying to figure out who you are, what do you like, what things do you gravitate toward, what kind of personality do you have. And I think it instilled on me a lot. It imprinted on me a lot during that time. And then I think I was in a really nice age group for this, like moved on to like Adult Swim, where a lot of the stuff, like I said earlier, there's a lot of cross-pollination, but it's also a lot of anime still, you know? And it's much more adult, and it was just like a really nice period, and it's cool to look back on just like the early days too, of like the action cartoons and Moltar and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's its lasting legacy on me. It's just like bringing me into like the larger fandom of anime in general.
Yeah. And now what about you? Same question, Hito.
Like I mentioned earlier on stream, Toonami definitely impacted me and helped me grow up a little bit and kind of become my own. Example, like I said before, the Tom Talks, when I was feeling down, when I was going through my bullying as a kid, they were like, well, you're still an individual. And I just felt like that would like reawaken some form of like fight in me. Even more so on that, I didn't get into anime because of Toonami, because at the time I was a Viz Media kid and I was into Ranma Half and Pokemon as well. I still remember Ranma like very dearly. That was like one of my first animes. But it wasn't on Toonami. When Toonami came in, I'm like, oh look, more shows that look like Ranma. That's literally where my brain went. It was like, this reminds me of Ranma. I wonder why. And then I found out it's called a Japanese anime.
Yep.
So when I figured it out, I was like, ooh, perfect. I enjoy it. Even more so on that, I did a lot of soul searching. The Zatch Bell series was really something that got me like excited to watch, because that show with its life lessons also kind of was kind of like a soul personage to Toonami, where like, be an individual, don't don't keep yourself bullied, stop living your life like you're above it all, like, you know, like these were important factors. So anytime when I would see Tom giving those talks and then I watched the anime that goes with Toonami, you learn these life lessons and they help you just push forward. Dragon Ball Z helped me a lot too because of the life lessons that were taught. I know for a fact that they were heavily edited for Tom's talks, like Nappa picking on Gohan for the bullying segment. But it definitely did Toonami definitely resonated with my heart and definitely helped me through some of the hard times.
Yeah.
And I would always look forward to stealing my family's TV for a second just to see what happens next on Dragon Ball Z, since my cable was freaking out.
Yeah. But yeah. Toonami was definitely like a block that I could always depend on when I wanted to watch something different from what I would normally see elsewhere, especially like around the time it started out. But yeah, for me, like while it wasn't my introduction to anime, because I did watch some anime prior to that, it did, however, get me more into anime later on, especially with the shows that they had. Not to mention, it opened me up into a completely new world of all these shows. It's like, instead of the usual stuff you would see on Cartoon Network, like the casual Looney Tunes reruns, or Tom and Jerry, or any of their original stuff, this was something completely different, and you would get it for about like 2, sometimes 3 hours a day, every day of the week. We would also have Saturday. We used to have like Saturday afternoon Toonami. It didn't last too long, but we did have Saturday afternoon ones. I remember they had Dot Hack on there and a couple of other shows.
Oh, don't even get me
Sun.
started. Don't even get me started with Dot Hack. Listen. When you said Dot Hack, you just literally said the keyword to trigger my warrior instincts. Hold on, let's talk about Dot Hack for a second. Toonami, the way that Toonami treated Dot Hack, because it got me frustrated. No, because here's the thing. Dot Hack used to be played at 4 and 5 in the morning, and then I had to think for myself, what kid is up at 4 or 5 in the fucking morning to watch Dot Hack? And it was 12 episodes long, by the way. It was only a 12-episode series, because that was the short one. You're talking about Legend of the Twilight Bracelet with Shugo and Reina. Then Sign came out, and they put it in the same block. This is one of those examples where Toonami was not giving that much love to other shows, and some people didn't even know they existed. Like, I didn't know that Dot Hack existed until one day I stood up late and was watching Cartoon Network, because why the fuck not? And I saw Dot Hack. I'm like, what is this freaking anime? I need to know. And then before I knew it, I ended up recording all the episodes, because they had a little marathon at 1 in the morning all the way to the end, and it was like a giant movie. Before I knew, I'm like, did I just see a whole movie?
Yeah,
Because it went from like either 12 midnight all the way down to 6 in the morning, and
Yeah.
I was like, God damn. And to this day, Dari said it great. I will always choose Dot Hack over Sword Art.
yeah.
I only like Sword Art till like the first half of season 1, but freaking Dot Hack was great. They had the cutesy version, and then they had they had Sign, which was a lot more of a mystery / thriller / scary situation. Because remember, I can say it right now, Sword Art did that whole entire your brain will explode with the microwave chip if you try to take off the VR headset. But Dot Hack did it worse. I mean, not worse. By worse, I mean like they made it more grave. Like, oh, if you get shocked by this monster in some way while a virus is happening on, you can end up comatose. So that's my whole thing on Dot Hack. They actually made it serious when it was serious, but it was also lighthearted at the same time. That is how you keep it anime. We didn't have to go into the harem genre for that.
Yeah. I will say I never got a chance to watch Dot Hack, but I really should at some point take the time to watch it.
It's 12 episodes long for both series. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. Just don't watch Root, because Root is technically coexistent with the Dot Hack GU game for the PS2. Yeah, that one's Root is kind of like, I think, a prequel or a sequel to the games that happened, but then 4 came out and kind of threw it off of its rocker.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, back to my personal impact real quick. Just all these anime that I would watch, there was a lot of really good shows in general, that have impacted me. Yu Yu Hakusho the most, more than anything. But yeah, like I have to really thank Toonami for like introducing me to so many great anime shows that I've actually watched over the years. There were some shows that I would watch and have fun casually watching. Like Bo is definitely one I had fun with. But more or less, it helped me get more into anime than I ever thought I would. And like just going in like back in high school, and people would talk about like the shows, like let's say Dragon Ball Z back in the day, just hearing how like what was happening here, what's happening like this saga or that saga, or what is Goku doing, and all that as an example. And people will also quote Yu Yu Hakusho. People will quote that. People will quote Gundam, and so many other shows. But it was a wild ride, and if I had to do it again, watch all those shows all over again, I would, especially Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, I'll never get the feeling of watching my favorite show again for the first time ever again. But if I could, Yu Yu Hakusho is that show. And yeah. But yeah.
I want to just say a sound effect that will a phrase, technically, that will reawaken everybody when it came to watching Toonami. Previously on Dragon Ball Z. That's it. Just the key has been open, the door has been open, and everyone remembers. Just, you don't care what's said afterwards. That's it.
Yep.
Just
Last time on Dragon Ball Z, you sat here waiting for them to power up for 20 fucking episodes. They finally did, and the fight itself went for 30 more episodes.
Yes.
It was great. See if they fight for another goddamn 50 next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
A show that makes 5 minutes into 30 episodes.
And
which technically is not 5 minutes.
Also,
where is Frieza's penis? It should be there, but it's not. Does Frieza hang dong? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
yes.
Also, is Cell's mouth also his penis? Find out next time.
Now,
Find out what he can put his mouth inside next time on Is That an Asshole? Z.
yeah. Anyway, what Zykel said about like Toonami back then was one of the best entry points for anime, and he loves that. That applies to all of us. Same here. Like,
yep.
Like, it's like, even if it wasn't your entry point, it was the point that where you really got into anime. And the thing is, we had non-anime. We had Megas SOR, we had Teen Titans, we had Justice League. There were a couple other shows as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of good stuff. But back then, when it started, there was barely anime. They had Thundercats. They had Batman, Superman stuff, and all that. And that's the thing. Like, Toonami was different when it started, but once it was mostly or all anime, that's exactly how we knew about it, and that's what really drew so many people, because it was different from what you would normally see. And yes, Samurai Jack did air on Toonami, but it didn't air on Toonami until like the final season, when like, because Gendy Tartakovsky wanted to work on the final season, Cartoon Network greenlit it, finished it off, and that was that. Not to mention, go ahead.
Samurai Jack wasn't even on Toonami for a long time. It originally started as cartoons with the Powerpuff Girls and Courage the Cowardly Dog, and they felt that because of the mature theme of Samurai Jack, they moved it later on in the season when it was still like a prominent show into Toonami, because they're like, yep, this is a little too scary for the kids, and I'm just like, I want more blood. I crave violence, mother.
It absolutely fit right. And they did, however, air reruns of shows that did air on Cartoon Network that got canceled, like Symbiotic Titan, aired on Toonami, after, like years after it got canceled on Cartoon Network. I figured if they would have aired Young Justice on the modern day Toonami, it would fit in right now. With what
you said Symbiotic Titan.
Yes, that was a show.
I know it was a show. The only thing I remember about that show is the random student just dancing in front of the teacher with booty, 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 shake it. Get
Oh my God.
That's all I remember while he's talking about the isosceles triangle. That's it. That's all I remember from
Oh my
that show.
God. Yeah.
It's
Anyway, like overall, like Toonami was great, and I'm really glad to have grown up with it over the years. I haven't really been keeping up with the current Toonami, but a lot of the shows that they do have right now, like, are very good. Like, though they do air reruns of anime that never aired on Toonami, but like back in the day, like Cowboy Bebop, and also they had Fooly Cooly, and like they aired it like on the modern day ones now, which is pretty nice. They're actually airing Lupin the Third Part 6. That's going on right now too.
yeah.
That's the newest one, right?
That's the latest one. Yes. I'm hoping at some point that they bring Yu Yu Hakusho back and air it on Toonami for those that have never seen it before. Though you could also watch it on Hulu. You could watch it on like I believe it's going to be on Crunchyroll because I think they're going to migrate a lot of the Funimation stuff to Crunchyroll at some point, since they practically merged.
Can we also remember for the fact that Funimation also may have done Dragon Ball Z and all these other cool voices, but they also led the charge for Degrassi. You know, teen drama.
They did. But yeah. Alright. So as we're winding down, my question now is, SuperNinBow, where can we find you?
You can find me at Twitch, SuperNinBow/SuperNinBow. The same thing that's been leaved me right now, my little thing, SuperNinBow. You can also find me on Twitter at SuperNinBow. I don't think I have anything that's not SuperNinBow. Okay, yes. Just look for that. You'll find it. It's good.
Of course. And here is your Twitter. And now, Hito, where can we find you?
So you can find me on twitch.tv/HitoRetroGaming. HitoRetroGaming. You can find me on Twitter on HitoRetroGaming. You could find me on YouTube, HitoRetroGaming. And you can find me on TikTok, HitoRetroGaming1. Because I messed up an account and now I don't have the password to it. So we have to settle with HitoRetroGaming, the first one.
Yep. HitoRetroGaming1, yeah.
I know my YouTube says Hito Classic Gaming. That was our old name. Don't worry about it. We've changed it.
Yeah.
We've matured.
Yep. And also, for anyone that's watching, that's the first time, you can follow me here on Twitch. You can also follow me on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter. All the same names and everything. I appreciate all you guys coming in for this episode of Sharing with Shellshock. And once again, thank you all so much, because this episode, like talking about Toonami, and Toonami just left a big impact for a lot of people, especially growing up. But yeah, thank you all so much. I'll figure out what the next episode will be, but take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
And have a good night.
Hey.